What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 11 Millionaire Maker. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. Okay guys, this is for the Millionaire Maker slate, which is the Sunday main slate at 1 p.m. Oh, and stick around to the very end of this video. After I show you all my picks in the Draft Dashboard tools, I'll show you these players in DraftKings and in FanDuel, the Millionaire Maker slates. There'll be 2 spots open that you'll have to fill in, but you'll have a great Millionaire Maker core. Okay guys, NFL Week 11, let's take a look at the quarterback position. So my Millionaire Maker quarterback, I'm going to save some salary here and go with a low ownership quarterback with a great matchup. I like Alex Smith from the Washington Redskins playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who have the 7th worst defense overall, and they give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Alex Smith, he scored 19 and 17 fantasy points in his last 2 games. He's playing really well. He's got some great wide receivers. He's got a good tight end to throw the ball to. And he's only going to be about 2% owned, projected at 14.9 fantasy points here in Week 11. I think that projection is way low here, considering he's already scored 19 and 17 fantasy points. Now he's got a great matchup. And he's only $5,300 DraftKings salary and $1,300 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 46.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Washington football team favored by 1.5. So a close, competitive game and a fantastic matchup. This guy's got something to prove coming back from injury. He's playing well. So I like Alex Smith here versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. My Millionaire Maker running back is Ezekiel Elliott from the Dallas Cowboys playing the Minnesota Vikings, who have the 8th worst defense overall and they're middle of the pack defending opposing running backs. Ezekiel Elliott has averaged 16.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 16.7 rush attempts per game and 5.4 pass targets per game. Now, he hasn't scored a lot of fantasy points in the last 3 weeks, but he's been getting plenty of rush attempts. He got 18 and 19 rush attempts in the last 2 games and 3 and 2 pass targets. So over 20 touches the past couple of weeks. He's bound to find the end zone and have a big fantasy football day eventually. He's going to be about 7% owned, projected at 15.5 fantasy points here in Week 11. He's $6,500 DraftKings salary and $1,500 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 48 points scored in this game, with the Dallas Cowboys trailing by 7. So he's got a pretty good matchup here. I think he's going to step it up versus Dalvin Cook. He's got some monster upside. He could score 2 or 3 touchdowns in this matchup. His salary is low. His ownership is still pretty low. He's on the field for 79% of the snaps. So I like Ezekiel Elliott here versus the Minnesota Vikings. Real quick guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL, MLB is still going, NBA is right around the corner. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. My Millionaire Maker wide receiver Let's stack this guy up with Alex Smith. I like Terry McLaurin from the Washington football team playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who have the 7th worst defense overall, and they give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Terry McLaurin has averaged 18.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 9.6 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 94% of the snaps, and he scored 18, 28, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 weeks off of 9, 8, and 11 pass targets. He's going to be about 16% owned, projected at 16.3 fantasy points here in week 11. He's $6,900 DraftKings salary and $400 more on FanDuel. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 46.5 points scored in this game, with the Washington football team favored by 1.5. This guy's been on fire. He's got a great matchup, so I like Terry McLaurin here versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. My millionaire maker tight end is going to be Ebron from the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have the 2nd worst defense overall, and they give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Ebron has averaged 8.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 5.4 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 78% of the snaps. He scored 6, 11, and 15 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He's going to be about 7% owned, projected at 10.1 fantasy points here in week 11. And he's only $4,000 DraftKings salary and $1,400 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 47.5 points scored in this game, with the Pittsburgh Steelers favored by 10. So fantastic matchup. He's been getting plenty of red zone targets, so I like Ebron here versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. You've unlocked the bonus content. Okay guys, here we are in the DraftKings lineup optimizer over on Draft Dashboard. We have our Millionaire Maker core locked in here, and we've generated a lineup. So let's see who we got. We got Alex Smith, Damian Harris, James Robinson, Terry McLaurin, Tyler Boyd, Marvin Jones Jr., Ebron, Ezekiel Elliott, and the Chargers defense. So right off the bat, guys, I love this lineup. It makes a nice Millionaire Maker lineup because we have a couple of low ownership plays here. Damian Harris only going to be about 1% owned. He has a fantastic matchup against the Houston Texans, and he's getting a ton of rush attempts, so he could easily find the end zone. And then Alex Smith at 2%, stacked with Terry McLaurin, and Marvin Jones Jr. at only 1% ownership. With Kenny Golladay out, Marvin Jones Jr. is getting more pass targets, and he's had a couple of nice fantasy weeks. And then we have the Chargers defense versus the New York Jets, who have an awful offense. So I'm going to save this lineup so I can optimize it later. Okay, so now here we are in the FanDuel lineup optimizer over on Draft Dashboard. We have our Millionaire Maker core locked in here, and we've generated a lineup. So let's see who we got. We got Alex Smith, Duke Johnson, Alvin Kamara, Robbie Anderson, Terry McLaurin, Justin Jefferson, Ebron, Ezekiel Elliott, and the Broncos defense. So here's another lineup I really like. Alvin Kamara's been fantastic this year, and now without Drew Brees, they may have to lean on the running game, and then Duke Johnson filling in for David Johnson. Justin Jefferson is a fantastic rookie. He's been putting up tons of fantasy points every single week. And Robbie Anderson, he's a big play wide receiver versus the Detroit Lions. So I'm going to save this lineup so I can optimize it later. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.